This episode is filmed in front of a live studio audience of canines. Bonjour, Kinamage Nene Ireland Indigenous Gossip. Welcome to today's episode of My Math. Today's topic from Chapter 2, Lesson 8, Estimate Products. Our essential question in Chapter 2 is what strategies can be used to multiply whole numbers? I want to begin us with the quick check. We have three problems found here. They want you to use the distributive property to evaluate them, which means find the answer. So go ahead and find a whiteboard or a scrap piece of paper and do these three problems. Pause the video and then return when you're done. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see how we did here. 5 times 4 plus 7. 5 times 4 is 9. Plus 5 times 7. Sorry, 5 times 4 is 20. Plus 5 times 7 is 35. So we get a product of 55. 3 times 9 and then 3 times 3. That's 27 plus 9 is 36. 9 times 11. 9 times 6. That's 99 and 54. So 153. How is rounding to estimate similar to using compatible numbers to estimate? Remember, rounding, we follow a little bit more specific rules. If it's 4 or less, we leave it alone. If it's 5 or more, we go up a floor, or whatever mnemonic that you use. But we have it pretty specified. Here's what you will do. If this, then that. Compatible numbers, I have a little more leeway. Let's say I wanted to go and multiply 217 times 9. Well, rounding the 9 would be pretty simple. And go to 10. 217, I want to go down. I don't want to just go down a little. I want to go all the way to 200 so that I could go 200 times 9, which is 1800. Suddenly it's numbers that I can work with. And that's the point of compatible numbers, is finding numbers that are easy to work with in the brain. Sometimes that might involve rounding one of the numbers. Sometimes it might involve both of the numbers. Depends on the operation that we are working on. So let's investigate the math. Again, this is not yet in the textbook. And as a gentle reminder, if I'm at any point moving too fast for you, pause the video, write in what you need to write, and then unpause the video. If you need to go backwards on something, feel free to do that. That is the awesome part about asynchronous videos. So let's start out. In the airport, there are 17 hallways of lockers. Each hallway contains 314 lockers. Estimate 17 times 314 to find out about how many lockers there are in all. Estimate by rounding to the nearest 10. So we look in here, we have 314 times 17. I could go ahead and actually solve it like this, but I want to go ahead and round. Now, what would you think you might round 314 to? How about 17? Let's do a reveal. You're going to go 310, which is rounding here, 20. That is one way to do it, 6,200. So I round it to the nearest number here. This is all rounding. Now here I'm going to use compatible numbers. And in that case, I'm still going to go to 20. It's 17 rounds up to 20. 20 is a number that I can use pretty easily. But the 314, instead of going down to 310, I'm going to go all the way to 300. Yes, the product will be a little bit different. But again, that word about tells me that I don't have to be perfect. And to be honest, in my head, 31 times 2, yeah, I could do that and add my zeros. But if I really want to be fast, 300 times 20, that's 6,000. So again, we're looking for simplest. Rounding, follow the rules. Compatible, make it easier on yourself. Within reason, of course. So 1 pound is equal to 16 ounces. Estimate the number of ounces in 133 pounds. show how you estimated? Well, I would probably go to something like 100 times 20. So go ahead and do that, my annotation tool. And then we'll compare what the book did too. Go 100 equals 2 times 1 is 2, there are 3 0, about 2,000 ounces. Go ahead and write that in, and we'll compare with what the book had to say. Because there are other ways to it. You could have gone 130 times 20, would have been another way to do it. And sometimes it's going to be dependent on what you're trying to find as you solve the problem, whether you want to go closer or further away. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the drawings to see what do we have here. They went with the 130, which would give us 2,600, and they went with the 20. So when I went with the 2,000, it kind of depends which way you want to go. Whereas our total answer will be somewhere a little bit less than that. All right, let's move on here to example basic. This will be found in page 125. This says lesson 8, estimate products. You may notice that we are getting closer to the end of this chapter. We'll be having our first quiz or our first test on this topic in a little over a week. So if you get stuck, make sure you're getting guidance here. I also advise that when multiplying, it's a good idea to practice with flashcards. Just saying. Now that you have your page, we look at, there is a bolded word there, compatible numbers. There are numbers in a problem that are really easy to compute mentally. Okay, so a pet store has 12 gecko lizards for sale. Each gecko lizard costs $92. About how much money would the store make if it sells all 12 geckos? One way to do this is round one factor. And they chose in this case to keep the 92 because multiplying by 10 is pretty straightforward. I'll put it here. 1 times 92 is going to be 92. And it is 0, 9, 20. So by rounding one factor, $920. This is one way to do it. That's where we rounded one. Followed the rules of rounding. And it gave us a pretty straightforward answer because multiplying by 10 is fairly simple. All right, let's go ahead and close that and go to the next one. You'll see the answer key as I pass on by. Round both factors. So let me grab my annotation tool again. 92 is close to 90. And I'm going to keep that as a 10 here. That makes sense. Now I have 9 times 1 is 9. And there are 2 zeros. So this estimate is $900. So you can see it's pretty close, about $20 off. And it really depends on your purpose on which one you should use. If I'm really speaking in generalities, I say, hey, it's about $900. And that's okay. But if I was trying to figure out how much money to take with me to the store, I might want to go with the rounding of one factor so that it's a little bit more accurate. Make sure those are written in. If not, pause video and write it. And we're going to continue on by clearing all the drawings, which will allow you to see the answer key, which shows that we did okay. And now compatible numbers. Now compatible numbers don't necessarily have to follow the same rule. 92, and you can tell by the fact that we have 3 boxes that we are probably going with a 3-digit number. And 92 would round up, or going to the nearest 100, would round up to 100. I'm going to take the 12 and go right back to 10. And then what's 10? What's 10 groups of 100? You probably already know this. 1,000. So by using compatible numbers, the estimate is about $1,000. And let's grab the calculator here, because it tells you to do it. $92 times 12 was $1,104. So circle all the estimates that were less than. Well, they were all less than, as it turned out in this scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my drawings. And close that out. Circle whether the estimates were all less than or greater than. They were all less than. And that's okay in this case. So let's move on to guided practice. And it's telling you which way they want you to do it. They want you to round both factors. We go around the 32 and the 18, or are we using compatible numbers? So let's go ahead and get my, I goofed here. Sorry about the glitch. The matrix has that happen occasionally. So 32, look here, it's a 3. 2 does not make it go up, so it'll stay the same, so it becomes a 30. 18, I'm rounding to the tens place. 8 is 5 or greater, so that'll make this one become a 2. And I just put a 0 there, so it's 20. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 zeros in my factors, so the product is about 600. Let's compare here. 98 is close to 100. Although it is a compatible number, but it's also rounded. And I'm going to go this one towards 80. Because if I run up to 90, it's not going to change a whole lot, to be honest with you, as far as the effort. 1 times 8 is 8, and there are 3 zeros. Means my product is about 8,000. You'll get the swing of this pretty quickly. Sometimes we have to fight the urge to round everything because that's kind of what we're taught as younger students. But now with the compatible numbers, we have a few more options in certain situations. Make sure you're reading the directions very carefully to know which one they're asking you to do. And once you're in the real world, so it'll depend on the situation, which way you're going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the drawings. You see the answer key there. Show 2 different ways I could estimate 312 times 18. Well, I could go 300 times 20, or I could go 310 times 20. That's 2 right there. So yay me. All right, let's do some independent practice. I want you to estimate by rounding. Show how you estimated. To do that, let's grab my annotation tool one time. Next to the problem, I want you to write it in. So if I went, I'm going to have to close this for just a second. By rounding, that's going to go to 220 or 200. Which will give me 2,200. And if I go 200 times 10, which is 2,000, I could do that there. So I get a few options here. Make sure you show it on your paper because that'll allow me to evaluate what your thinking is and be able to provide further instruction. So go ahead and solve these problems by rounding, and I'll see you on the other side. You may pause the video. Welcome back. Let's go to our answer key here. Here's a sample answer because on the first one they went with 200 times 6, but you could have gone 200 times 10 possibly as well. But notice that when going with 200 times 6, where you only rounded to the nearest 100, that answer is significantly different. On number 4, we have 70 times 7, which makes sense, 490. Over here, 130 times 30. So 13 times 3 is 39, add the 2 zeros. Over here, they went to 60 times 70. Then we had 80 times 60 and 400 times 50. So this was all pretty much by rounding. Again, what you choose to round to, if you're rounding to the tens place or the hundreds place, will make a difference on your answer. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Using compatible numbers, same thing applies. I want you to show how you estimated. Remember, with compatible numbers, you have a little more flexibility. So let's go ahead and pause the video and I'll see you on the other side. Let me pause now. Welcome back. Let's see how you did with compatible numbers. 100 times 50, that makes sense. So even though this would technically to 110, we went to 100 because that's easier mentally. 33 times 6, go 30 times 6. Some of you may have gone 30 times 10, but 300 and 180 is a pretty good margin of difference there. 125 times 10. Notice in this case, they went in the middle. Could they have gone 130 times 10? Absolutely, would have been fine. 33 times 84, that's close to 30, and that's closer to 80. So it's about 2,400. 450 times 21, they rounded this one to the hundreds place, this one to the tens place, and you got 10,000. Here again, rounded to the hundreds place and to the tens place, 28,000. The table shows the number of pounds of apples that were harvested each day. Estimate how many pounds of apples were harvested altogether by rounding. So I want you to try it, and then let's come back and see how yours compares with the book. So pause your video now. Welcome back. And first things first, make sure you're added and not multiplied all these numbers because they'll be big numbers. Let's see what we got here. There were two groups that were close to 500. And that was these two here. Two groups that were close to 400, 420 and the 390. And one that was kind of slightly closer to 300. And then you add them together. Notice that we included a little bit of multiplication here by the distributive property. 2 times 500 is 1,000. That's going to be 800, so 1,800 plus the 300, 2,100 pounds. All right, we have reached the point of this lesson where I want you to go ahead and do the homework that is on page 129 and 130. If you may do it there, or you may choose to do it within the Google Classroom. If you have any questions, please attend office hours or see me during my live stream. Hope you all have an engaging guide. Vamos P.